Do you try to fix other people? Do you have perfectionist tendencies? Do you think you're perceived as an emotional, intelligent person? Do you neglect your personal needs to please other people? That's for the people pleasers out there. And for the record, the truth is that most of us are psychologically immature. Hi there, my name is Daniela and I am a licensed therapist. I am here to make videos about mental health, personal development, a little bit of travel, and pregnancy as well. Today we're going to focus on mental health, especially on the topic of psychological maturity. Let's start by defining it. And let me get my computer for that. So, according to the American Psychology Society, psychological maturity is the ability to deal effectively and resiliently with experiences and to perform satisfactorily in developmental tasks characteristic of one's age level. So, to make things more simple, pretty much what they're saying is that to be psychological mature, you're supposed to be dealing with life things effectively and according to your developmental age. That is supposed to come from cognitive functioning, emotional functioning, mental functioning, and even biological functioning. To improve our understanding about this, let's define the opposite, psychological immaturity. And starting with that word, immature. The definition of immaturity is something that's not fully developed yet. And that's an important word there, yet. Why? Because maturity is supposed to be happening all the time. It's a lifelong process. Every time you wake up, it's a new day. You're growing, you're changing, you're developing. And with that biological development, there's supposed to be psychological development as well. And in the world of psychology, especially in the world of shadow work and Jungian therapy, we believe that people that are not putting work into enhancing their self-identity, their self-worth, their personal development, their self-actualization, their inner world, or their psyche, however you want to call it, those are people that are psychologically immature. Why? Because you're not growing in that area, right? And for the record, the truth is that most of us are psychologically immature because there's so much more to live and to see and to experience. Maturity comes with time, with wisdom, experiences, failures, lessons. So depending on our age and those things, we probably have or don't have enough material, let's say, to claim our psychological maturity. Nonetheless, it's never too late to start doing something about it. There are things that you can do today to improve your psychological maturity and emotional intelligence. But is this really important? Why am I promoting it? Well, being psychologically mature is going to help you reach more successful resolutions to problems. And yes, you need this because we all face problems every single day. Sometimes even waking up is a problem. Other benefits include having better relationships with friends, family, lovers, wiser reflections, a job that is aligned with yourself, improving your authenticity, your personality, your social circles. Generally speaking, psychological maturity can help you reach your best potential. Now, there are different ways to assess and measure your level of psychological maturity, but I'm going to show you today the ones that I use with my clients. First, let's explore the hierarchy of needs by Maslow. Maslow created this pyramid to explain human motivation and give reasons to why sometimes we're stuck in certain stages of our life or developmental stages of our life. He believed that humans were motivated by 5 different basic needs that go in a certain order for a certain reason, starting with physiological needs at the bottom, then safety needs, then love and belonging, esteem, and then self-actualization at the bottom, which is the magnificent part because this is when in our development we're able to become whole, become more authentic, as I said, and do the things that are right for us and those around us. It's like the peak of human development. So I believe this is your starting point, looking at this pyramid and recognizing whether you are struggling with lower level basic needs? And if you are, then focusing on those first. Because what's the point of forcing yourself to think that you have to love yourself and you have to be better and you have to recognize your potential, and when you're not sleeping well, you're not eating well, you don't have other basic needs fulfilled? So start from the bottom and ask yourself, do I sleep well? Do I eat well? Do I drink enough water? Do I have healthy relationships? Is my partner a safe person? Is my mom, my family system healthy people to be around? If you answer no to any of those questions, then it's time to work on that so you can create a strong foundation for when you work on self-actualization matters. Then once you have assessed those basic needs, we can talk about self-actualization, and when we enter that world, we can talk about psychological maturity, which we will assess with the following steps. I like to use the 5 hallmarks of psychological maturity, and I honestly love this material, and I think it really helps people understand their level of psychological maturity and improve it. Alright, so let's start with hallmark number 1, emotional maturity. Having emotional maturity means that you know your emotional self and you have developed a good understanding of what affects you, why, and how. People with emotional maturity take themselves accountable to cope with emotional situations that are distressing and challenging, and they try to develop the best course of action for themselves and others around them. For example, if let's say I get really stressed out by having political conversations with people, and I know that my symptoms become very physical, I get agitated, my heart rate starts raising, I feel hot, well, maybe it's best not to get there, right? I know what affects me, I know how it affects me, and I know reasons why it affects me. So for that reason, I may have to take a smart approach, take accountability so I can cope with my emotional distress, let's say one in public. So I may try to avoid or reroute these conversations. I may try and leave the room and try to talk to someone else, or try to get a glass of water, or try not to initiate or engage in this type of conversations for the sake of my emotional health and the one of others. Now, to better assess this category, I want you to ask yourself these questions. Do you think you're perceived as an emotional, intelligent person by others? How would you rate your emotional intelligence on a scale of 0 to 5? Do you recognize your emotional states? Are you aware of them? How it feels, why it feels that way, how it makes you behave? Do you know how to regulate your emotions? Do you behave in ways that project your true essence? Hallmark number 2, personal responsibility. Questions to ask yourself. Do you overreact or underreact in situations? So for example, if you're having a discussion with your partner, will you start yelling and throwing things and slamming the door and storming off? Or do you underreact? Do you avoid? Do you stay quiet? Do you stonewall? What are you doing? Next question. Do you put blame on others before reflecting on your actions? So is it for you an automatic thing to blame other people? Do you avoid situations that seem stressful? Do you dwell on stressful situations? Are you able to forget people that have wronged you? And it may seem odd to you that I'm adding forgiveness into the category of personal responsibility, but think about it. Personal responsibility requires that we face and resolve past conflict internally. And to do that, you may have to forgive other people and let go. Can you see it now? Third hallmark, personal honesty. This is a tough one. I always think I have it figured out until I realize I don't. Personal honesty demands integration with our inner world, because we really have to be so attuned with our core ideas, emotions, feelings, sensations, values, motives, and life story in order to honor it. And we live in a world where there is so much noise, and sometimes that noise around us influences us, and it leads us to mindlessly go in a direction that is not aligned with who we are. Sometimes our people-pleasing tendencies lead us to neglect our personal needs. So are we really being honest with ourselves when we are pleasing others, when we are trying to do what other people want because we think that there's some sort of happiness there? I don't know, you are neglecting yourself at the end of the day. So to assess this one, ask yourself the following questions. On a scale of 0 to 5, how honest are you with yourself? Do you tend to engage in a deep analysis of who you are and how you act, and how those two things go together? Are you a fair judge of your own actions? Do you have honest and clear motives, or do you find yourself slightly manipulating things so they go a certain way? Do you make efforts to mask how you really feel because you are embarrassed to be vulnerable? Do you neglect your personal needs to please other people? That's for the people pleasers out there. Are you real, transparent, authentic? Hallmark number 4, almost there, compassion. Developing a healthy level of compassion for yourself and others will foster acceptance of situations and encourage sound interpersonal relationships. Know that a lot of us, we're nurturers, we are givers, we are caretakers, but the urge to help, to fix, to improve other people will disconnect you from your inner world and your psychological maturity, because you are investing energy in the wrong place, and at the same time being completely self-absorbed and not relating to other people and engaging with them at personal, intimate levels will limit the expansion of your self-actualization. We need to have healthy relationships with other people for us to grow and learn and get our brain stimulated with other information rather than what we have in here. So there needs to be a really good balance between being aware and in touch with your inner world and also aware and in touch with other people. The questions to assess this category are: do you try to fix other people? Do you have perfectionist tendencies with both yourself and others? Do you listen to other people graciously? Do you show up for people that you care about? Do you give unsolicited and unwanted advice? Are you compassionate or critical? Do you complain constantly about your life and about other people? Do you fail to appreciate other people's efforts? Do you fail to appreciate your own efforts? Do you fail to give yourself a pat in the back when you do a good job? Alright, last but not least, spirituality. There's some controversy with this one, and some of my clients have told me, but I'm not religious. Why do I care about spirituality? And if I don't have that in my life, am I psychologically immature? Well, I don't hold the ultimate truth, but I do believe that there is importance in connecting with something more than just your flesh and material things. But anyways, let's not get into that complexity. I understand that this one is one of the concepts of psychological maturity that some people dismiss, and that's okay. You're entitled to it. And for that case, let's define spirituality as a quality of being beyond the physical or material domain of existence. So challenge yourself with these questions and see what happens. Give it a chance. Do you believe there's only mind and body, or do you believe there's mind, body, and soul? Do you believe in any type of higher power or anything bigger than yourself? Do you engage in practices that nourish your soul? And those can be meditation, mindfulness, relaxation, self-introspection. Do you believe that there are parts of you that could unlock through non-material means? What are your thoughts about life and death? An important topic, and something that you really, really need for psychological maturity, because death is inevitable. At one point, it's going to be around you or happen to you, and it takes a lot of psychological maturity to deal with it. Last question: does your ego rule you, or are you aware of it? Are you able to control it? Are you able to abandon it when you need to? I hope that these questions helped you improve your awareness of your level of psychological maturity, and the way to improve it is just to do something about it. If for some of these questions you answered poorly, then maybe it's time that you try and put some efforts towards that area of your life. So if you, let's say, struggle with emotion regulation and you answered no for do you know how to regulate your emotions, then go on Google and find ways to regulate emotions, work on that so you can improve your emotional maturity. Do the same process for the rest of the questions and the hallmarks of psychological maturity. Remember that this is a lifelong process. You don't need to do it today. You don't need to do it tomorrow. Just have it in a journal, have it as an intention to always work on these things as they come and to become aware of whether you are doing good things towards your psychological maturity or you are doing things that are counterproductive for your psychological maturity, and take action today. So well, that's all for this video. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon in another video.